Conversation Corner. I'm your host, Safia Sattar. On today's episode, we're in conversation with the award-winning filmmaker, director, producer, and writer, Steve Rahaman. So, Steve, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about your background and tell your fans who Steve Rahaman is.
Well, I was born in Trinidad and Tobago and spent most of my early life in Brooklyn. Grew up in Queens, went to Richmond Hill High School. I'm pretty much local.
Okay.
Work IT. I'm a remote access specialist at a law firm in the city.
Okay.
So I'm pretty local.
So how did you get from being Steve the IT guy to Steve the filmmaker?
Well, the filmmaker part of me is it started as a hobby.
Okay.
Now the way I see it is it's my second job. You know, it's my weekend gig, evening gig after work. So that's how I keep myself busy.
So what was it about filmmaking that appealed to you? When was it that you realized that you wanted to actually direct and make films?
Well, I've always been a huge fan of movies, and a friend of mine, he had a screening for his film here in Queens, and I went to the screening, saw it, got inspired, you know, just the sound, the people, and just the whole atmosphere was amazing. So that's where I decided, I knew in my mind that I love the idea that I can write something, create something, and have people make it come true, come to life.
So when you had that realization, did you take classes? Did you go to school? What did you do to get into making the films?
I didn't do anything. I bought a camera and jotted down a few lines, started shooting a film, and I didn't go to school. I don't have the patience for school.
Really?
No.
So when did you make your first film? What was your first film? What was that experience like for you?
My first film was in 2005. It was a film called Follower. It is it's a horrible film, and I actually watched it the other day, and I've grown so much from that.
Okay.
You won't believe. It is a horrible film.
What?
But it was my first time holding a camera and setting up shots and trying to work with audio and music. It was just it was an experience.
So you've obviously grown a lot since The Follower, the first movie. Mm-hmm. You've won awards, several awards for some of your films. What was that experience like for you when you won the award for Christmas Day and Bloodline?
Christmas Day's award was amazing. You know, I had to stand in front of the stage and talk to about a couple hundred people and explain to them how the film came about and thank people, and it was a great experience just to be on stage and get recognized.
What was it like for you when you heard your name, you heard your film being announced that had won the award?
It felt amazing. It made me want to make another.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you have any inkling that you were going to win, or was it a complete surprise to you?
It's you know, they're judges and people who watch it, they know who's the winner before it screens in the theater.
Okay.
So you only find out after, and it took like a month before it was listed, and you get that call that you need to come in for the ceremony and all that stuff, and you start getting nervous and trying to find something to wear, and it gets crazy.
So you mentioned that you're West Indian, you're Trinidadian. Do you feel like you were at a disadvantage or an advantage being of that nationality in this industry?
No, because there's a complete mix of different directors and actors out there, and I don't think it matters. It's all about what the film looks like in the end.
Right.
You know, Bloodline, Queensbound, Christmas Day, they're all mafia films.
Okay.
And heavy Italian influence, and people didn't know a Trinidadian guy came and directed this film.
Right.
You know, they thought it was an Italian. Mm-hmm. And a lot of Italian actors were telling me they were amazed by the research that went into it.
You did a lot of research for this film.
I did. I spoke to a lot of local area folks, people who were in the mafia business. Let's just say I had a few sit downs with them, and I learned a lot. I learned how not to ruin a scene where someone's getting made, because that could be an offense.
Okay. So you got quite experience there in the mafia world.
Yeah, somewhat.
Okay. Well, tell me a little bit about the filming process for you. I read somewhere that you only use one camera when you're filming a movie. How does that work? Explain that process to me.
Shooting with one camera is something I like to do because it keeps me focused. I know exactly what I'm shooting. I'm behind the camera. I know what shot I want. I know what angle I'm going to use. A second camera kind of throws things off of me. It's another set of footage, the same footage I got to work with. I just like keeping it steady and straight.
So you therefore you direct, you write, you edit, you cast, and you even appear in each of your films, correct? So how do you do it all? What is that process like for you, from the writing of the script to the editing and the end result? Explain that to me. That just seems like so much for one guy.
Well, it keeps me involved in the whole process. I can't shoot a film and then give it off to some guy to edit for me because
Okay.
I'm going to be sitting waiting for something I know it's not going to look exactly the way I had it in my head. Especially if I wrote the film, I want it to be chopped up and edited the way I saw it in my head.
So when you're editing and when you're shooting, when do you know that you've got a scene that's perfect, that's complete in your mind? When do you know that that's a wrap? Like, that's the scene. That's money. That's it.
While shooting?
While shooting and while editing, both.
Well, while shooting, it's just a feeling. You hear every word that you wrote and the important words. So for me, writing 3 pages of a scene, I would have point words is what I usually call it. It's where I know I am in the scene, where the scene's going to change.
Okay.
Will the character turn, get angry? Those are my points. And once I know I hit all those points, I'm good to go.
And what about in editing? When you're sitting there in front of the computer and you're editing it, when do you know that, okay, this is perfect, this is final?
Well, for me, it has to do with the audio,
Okay.
and the way the actors deliver their lines, my angles, and when the music is done and I can play it back and I get a little chill knowing I did that, I know I'm good. I can move on.
Okay. So where would you say you get your inspiration from your films? Like, where does it come to you when you get your ideas?
Well, everyday life, I suppose. A lot of my dialogue comes from past experience in my life, whether it be relationships.
Okay. Have you like hinted at any relationships in these
all
films?
the time.
Okay. Okay.
A lot of words you hear in my films scattered around. It's got to be something that someone said to me.
Okay.
You know, I use a lot of that, and I use a lot of experience from things you hear in the news, things you hear from talking to people. But I just turn it up a notch.
So, outside of your real life experience, do you incorporate any of your cultural background into your films? Do you bring any of that into it at all?
No, I don't, and I haven't for any of my films. I will eventually, and my dream goal is to shoot a film in Trinidad.
Okay.
Something based on folklore. So.
Okay.
But eventually I'll get into my culture. I don't use any music or any kind of Caribbean music in my films.
Okay.
I keep it. The way I like to call it is just keep it Hollywood, For now until I get up there, then I'll expose everything else.
Okay. So how do you go about selecting your scenes for your films? Like, when you see a scene, how do you go by picking where you're going to shoot each scene?
Like locations?
Correct, yeah, locations.
So locations are pretty hit or miss, You can see the perfect pizza shop that you want to shoot at, and you go in and you ask the guy, and he's like, "No, I don't want that kind of publicity."
Okay.
And then you'll get a guy next door who will be like, "Really? Can you shoot the sign? Can you do this? You can do whatever you want, break a glass, whatever."
Okay.
And then that's how you know where you want the scene. And usually, I'll find the locations, and then I'll write the scenes around it.
Okay, okay.
Because I know what I have and what I can do and what I
Okay.
can't do.
Now, what about your actors? How do you pick your actors and your actresses?
My actors, pretty much from NewYorkCastings.com.
Okay.
Shout out. They, through that website, I'll audition the folks. I'll do an audition in the city, get about 100 people out
Okay.
for the same character, and then I'll find the perfect one.
So what is it about a particular actor or actress where you've found magic with that person? You know they're right for your film.
It's the way they would deliver a line. Normally, I'd give them like the most intense line.
Okay.
In
Challenge them the most.
Right, and then I'll give them the most subtle line after.
Okay.
And just see how their eye movements are, their facial expressions, the way they just speak, their tone.
So tell us a little bit about your actors and actresses in your past films and your upcoming films.
There's a lot of folks that I still work with who I've used in pretty much all of my films. One guy who's stuck around from the very beginning was Daniel Gerasi, and he was in my first film, Follower, and he spent hours in a makeup chair applying ghost effects, makeup, rotten teeth, and all this stuff, and in the end, when we watched the film, you barely could see any of that stuff.
Oh.
So the torture I put him through, and knowing that he'll keep coming back, he was in Christmas Day, Queensbound, and various other shorts I've done. They're just good people, and they just like the exposure. Maybe they just like working with me.
Maybe.
Yeah, and there's all of them. Frank Molino, Alison Serboff, who's off in L.A., and Nigel Harvey. This is the second film I'm working on with him.
And he's the lead in your upcoming film, correct?
Yes, he is.
So tell us about that. Tell us about To Be King, which is your next film.
To Be King, we're currently in production, is a boxing film. It's about a down and out street thug who changes his life when everything starts to stack against him. Family.
Okay. And you have Nigel, he's in that film, correct?
Yes, Nigel is my lead. He plays Tyrone King.
Okay.
And he plays that thug.
He plays that thug. Okay. And the film is shot a lot in Brooklyn, correct? In the Starrett City Boxing Club.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. Tell us about your location, picking that boxing club. Your experience there.
Well, we got in touch with a friend of ours, Kwame, whose grandfather owned Starrett City Boxing Club. Okay. And that's the famous Jimmy O'Farrell.
Okay.
And the late Jimmy O'Farrell. He recently passed away. He found out about the film, and he knew Nigel Harvey, and he just opened up for us, and he let us do whatever we want, shoot whenever we want. Stay late. They close at 2:00 on Saturday. We'll be shooting there till 4 in the morning, and he'll be fine with it.
So what other parts of New York will you be filming?
We'll be shooting in Long Island, Queens, Brooklyn.
So do you typically, most of your films, they're local. They're right here in New York, correct?
They're very local.
Okay, so you've shot right around the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Within the 5 boroughs.
Yeah.
Okay.
And deep in the Hamptons, we shot a lot of scenes for Bloodline in the Hamptons.
Okay.
At one of my actors' home.
Okay, all right. So, Steve, in making all these films and directing all these films and writing and casting and the whole 9 works, what would you say are some of your challenges, as a director and a writer and wearing all the hats that you do? What would be some of your challenges?
Well, scheduling and getting all my actors who I need on that one day together. It's pretty hard when everyone has a job, and this is their second job as well.
Right.
Money is always an issue. Money runs out quick. You put aside money for a production, and boom, it's gone in like a month.
Yeah.
And then just paying for music, scenes, locations, and all that stuff. It starts to get...
It adds up.
Yeah.
Literally. Okay, so now let's switch things up a little bit and let's talk about your inspirations. Are there any particular directors or actors that you look up to, you admire, you know?
Well, my favorite director is Clint Eastwood.
Okay.
And I'm a huge fan of Clint Eastwood. Mystic River was my favorite film.
Okay.
Still is.
Mystic River, okay. Yeah. Great film.
His directing style is really subtle and drawn out, but there's so much emotion in his scenes. Every scene has its own story to tell.
Right. And
I love that. He just takes his time with his filmmaking.
So would you say you try to mirror some of that in your directing style?
I do. I try to slow things down, especially now.
Okay.
But I think my biggest downfall in the filmmaking process is I'm an action type of guy.
Okay.
I've made dramas, short films and such, but I need a fight scene.
You have
I
to
don't
have a fight scene.
necessarily have to have a gunfight or anything.
Okay.
But there has to be a punch thrown. Those are the scenes. Those are those mornings where I'd wake up really early, go out for a run, and just plan it out in my head. This is how I want to see this punch. I want this punch, you know.
So is that how your mind works? While you're
Yeah.
running, while you're just on your downtime, you think about all these different...
Yeah, it all plays out in my head. Let's say we're shooting a fight scene. It's more relaxed to me than it would be for an intense dialogue scene.
Yeah.
Where you have to sit and listen to it and wait for your moment. We gotta do it one more time, and we're doing it 15 times. A fight scene now, it's more, for me, it's fun.
Okay.
You know, there's a lot of things going on. Punches are being thrown. Camera has to be crazy. You know, nothing's steady. It's just more involved.
So, with all of that going on, how long would you say it takes you from the writing of the script to completing the project? Like, how long would a film or a particular scene, you know, take you to complete?
Well, let's talk about To Be King.
Okay.
To Be King started shooting. Well, let me start from the beginning. I met Nigel Harvey by chance one day. He came out. He was in my neighborhood. And I don't remember how we bumped into each other, but he looked at me and he said, "We need to talk." And I'm like, "You know, what's going on?" He says, "I have a feeling about you." And he found out that, I told him I make movies. And he pitched this whole story about this boxer who goes from nothing and he climbs his way to the top.
When was this? When did this happen?
This was probably in late 2007.
Oh, wow. So it's been quite a while until you got to this point. Okay.
Yeah. So we started actually shooting in spring of 2008.
Okay.
And we shot half the film.
Ah.
And something just didn't feel right.
Okay.
I don't know if it was just the way the film was going and the scenes, or maybe the actors. It just didn't seem like now was the right time to do it.
Okay.
So I put it aside and we stopped and we called it quits, and maybe we'll pick it up later. And then Bloodline came up. And with Bloodline, we just started shooting. Bloodline was an interesting story. I'll tell you about that. Bloodline, I had a dream about how, Christmas Day and Queensbound ended. They were part of this series, right?
Okay. So it's Christmas Day, Bloodline. Christmas Day, Queensbound, Bloodline.
Right.
Okay.
So I wasn't going to do any more Mafia films. I'd done enough.
Okay.
I had a crazy dream about a story of two rival gangs. And I tried to put it together where it wasn't Mafia. It was just... And it just worked as Mafia because the city and in the news there was something about street gang fighting stuff going on.
Okay.
So anyway, I called up Nigel and I said, "Nigel, I want to do this Mafia film." He was like, "Another one?" I said, "No, this one's Bloodline. Trust me, you're in it. You're gonna be the leader of one gang and the Italians are gonna be on the other side and it's gonna be incredible. Trust me." He was like, "All right, let's do it." And we started shooting that. And we were done with that in 7 months. Edited. We started shooting, I didn't even finish the script yet, and we were shooting. I would send out scenes to everyone. No one knew what they were getting themselves into. But in the end, we won awards.
Yeah. There was a method there.
We made it out to Berlin. We were in LA. We opened up in New York. We sold out every single show.
Wow.
And that's just how the flow just went. And then Nigel stuck with me, and here we are, going at To Be King again. And now To Be King is twice the film as the last one could have ever been.
So where do you see yourself as a director in 5-6 years?
I hope to definitely be in Hollywood.
Yeah.
I don't want to be local anymore. And I love California, and I definitely want to be California. I love New York, but there's something about California where that's where I want to be.
I could agree with that one. I'm from California, as you know. So if you had to describe your directing style in one word, what word would that be?
I would say energetic.
Energetic.
Yes.
And tell me why.
Because if anyone knows me, Steve likes action, and I like challenging myself with intense scenes.
Okay.
You know, like Matthew Murphy, my visual effects guy. He knows that I like blood.
Okay.
So we'll go through the jugs of fake blood.
Uh-huh.
I would go through them, and he would have to stop me. And the days I know I'm doing a really big shootout or a fight scene or something like that, I'll walk with a whole jug, and and I'll invite him there just to keep me
Balanced.
balanced.
Okay.
Because I'll go nuts. Yeah.
So you like the energy behind your films.
I like the energy. I love shooting. I love seeing the faces on everybody when they're tired at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just tell them, dude, we just made a movie. What's
Right,
wrong with you?
right.
I'm going home mad. I'm not going to sleep. You can go sleep. I'll go home and work on film. But
So looking back at your films from the very first one, The Follower, to now Bloodline, To Be King, how would you say as a director you have progressed, and how have your films progressed from one to the next?
a whole lot.
Okay.
I mean, just basic things that I see that I did in my first film and I'm doing now. It's just like setting up shots, making sure dialogue makes sense.
Right. Simple things, little things. Yeah.
Just taking into details.
Okay.
You know, I'd watch other people shoot a film, or you see what's on TV and you see the way they set up these shots. You know, like CSI.
Uh-huh.
They have to tell a whole story in like 42 minutes.
Right.
Minus commercial.
Right.
And just the way they cut, transition, move, you learn. You know? I mean, school is great. Go to school. But for me, I like to pick things up
On your
and
own.
do my own style.
Okay. So what's to be expected of Falling Leaves films in the future? What other projects are you working on? What?
Well, there's Fallen Leaves Films and SR Studios now.
Okay, tell us.
Fallen Leaves Films is the Fallen Leaves Productions is our parent company. Fallen Leaves Films is the film
Okay.
section. You know, we produce everything on the Fallen Leaves Films. And SR Studios is my personal workshop. When I'm done shooting that day, when I get home or when I get into the studio, that's my world, my SR Studios. So.
Okay.
Hopefully in time, you know, I'll be, I could be possibly editing other people's films, hopefully for
Okay.
Hollywood,
Okay.
or trailers or anything like that.
What about movies? Anything in the works?
Well, there's a few things in the works. I have a drama that I want to do next year.
Okay.
And I have a film about a father and daughter relationship
Okay.
thing that I'm collaborating with one of my actors, writer,
Okay.
Tommy Kilesi, and I'm working on a project overseas that
Okay.
that I hope to shoot by next year overseas.
Okay. And this is going to be overseas. All the filming will be done overseas.
30% of it will be shot here in the U.S.
Do you care to tell us where overseas?
Right now we're shooting for the Philippines.
Okay. That's nice.
Yeah. It's I'll give you a little brief on the story. It's about a reporter and her cameraman
Okay.
who work for a big company in the city, and they get the opportunity of a lifetime to interview some kidnappers
Okay. In the Philippines.
in the Philippines.
Okay.
And there's this whole uprising in the Philippines that they're gonna go shoot. So they take the opportunity and they go out there and they leave everything, their lives, their husbands, and one of them is getting married, and they fly out there and they go to interview these kidnappers, and things go a little nuts.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, that's my baby right now. I'm actually currently writing that.
Okay. All right. So how do you balance all of this? How do you balance one film to the next, and you're writing one right now, you're filming one, you're editing. How do you balance it all? What do you do in your downtime? How do you balance all this out?
I don't think I have a downtime. No, if I'm not, I'm always doing something, and I'm up late every night regardless. So I just find time. I squeeze it in.
Well, you got to, I guess.
Yeah.
So, Steve, my final question for you will be, what do your films mean to you?
My films, when I grow up and I have children, I want my kids to be proud of their dad. Like my dad did this. and when they show it to their friends, or if it ends up when DVDs are obsolete and they find it in the attic, I want it to glow. Yeah, I don't know. I just want to leave a legacy. I don't want to be just Steve Rahaman, guy from Queens.
Right.
You know, worked in a law firm all his life. I don't want to be that.
That's nice. Yeah. That's nice. Okay, well, thank you so much for sitting with us.
No problem.
And we'll see you next time on Conversation Corner.
You're nothing like your father, in or out of the ring.
You better check your priorities, King. Cause you ain't nothing without this money, yo. How you think your girl knew about this job?
There's nothing here for you anymore. Get out of my house.
We gotta change our lives, brother. This life that we live is not forgiving.
What else are we gonna do?
Marcus, what the hell are you doing, man? What?
If I could get you off those streets, then I'm willing to take the risk. I'm willing to give you a chance. Take it.
I figured this out. You watched this scum take my father away, you blame yourself for his death, and now you want to find redemption in me.
He's gonna do to you what he did to your father. I can't let that happen again.
He fights Bulldog. Now, sanctioned fight. I don't want any excuse. This is a one-time deal.